This is Dr. Lee Zeitz, and we're coming here from the University of Northern Iowa. We'd like to welcome you to the first in a series of Connect to Tech webinars that we have through the University of Northern Iowa. This is going to be your opportunity to actually meet and greet and talk with people who are in the professions that you're pursuing in school, or maybe you're out looking for a different kind of job and you want to find out what that's going to include. We're going to have a series of noon webinars, which means you can watch these while you're eating your chicken salad sandwich or whatever it may be. And it should be quite exciting. Today we're going to be meeting with graduates in instructional design. They went through our program and now they're out there working as instructional designers. And next Tuesday, on April 22nd, we'll be meeting with a couple technology integration specialists. One of them will be from the K-12 world and the other one is coming from here at UNI. Now, we have a few more during late April and maybe early May, and then we'll be doing stuff into the August. And all of these will be archived, so you'll be able to watch them as you want. Before we get started, I'd like to thank the wonderful people at the Iowa Distance Learning Association, because they're the ones who are funding this. Last year, Dr. Ping Gao and I submitted some grant applications, and they decided to support our grant. And this is why this is happening. So thank you very much, people at ILA. And then most importantly, we have the person who's been putting this all together, and that's the one, the only, Nikki Lyons. She's a graduate student here in our instructional technology program, and she's been heading this effort. Now, she's had a variety of other students who have been helping her along, but she's really the one who's been making it happen. So I'm going to, without any further ado, allow me to throw this over to Nikki. Take it away.
Thanks, Dr. Zeitz. Good afternoon, everyone. I am Nikki Lyons, graduate assistant here at the University of Northern Iowa, and I am majoring in instructional technology here. Today we have with us two instructional designers who came through the program here at UNI. We have Nelson Rokke, and we also have Isandra Martinez. So we'd like to welcome both of them. And today what we're going to do is talk to them to find out what it was like here in the program, what they are doing now in the field, and how we as students can get the most out of the program here at UNI so that when we graduate, we can go into the field and be successful also. So what I'd like to do is ask both of you to introduce yourselves, give us your name, where you are working, when you graduated from UNI, and how long you've been in the field. We'll start with you, Isandra.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Like Nikki said, my name is Isandra Martinez-Marreno, and I graduated from the Performance and Training Technology program in 2005. I should say I walked in 2005 and submitted my paper in 2006. So my formal graduation day is 2006. I've been working in the field for almost 9 years this year, in August this year, which kind of surprised me yesterday as I was going through the list of questions that Nikki sent me, because time really flies. I mean, I cannot believe that it has been almost 10 years since I graduated. So that was a nice kind of like aha moment for me yesterday when I was kind of thinking about just going through the list that you sent me. In terms of, so that was my name, when I graduated, and that's how long I have been on the field.
Nelson.
Good afternoon. My name is Nelson Rokke, and I graduated from the program in December 2012. I work for a company in Ames, Iowa called WebFilings, and we create software technology for companies who are filing SEC reports to the government, as well as other business reporting, marketing domains. So I've been practicing as an instructional designer since December 2012. And I really enjoy it. And yeah, that's about it.
Okay, everyone. Before we go any further, I just want to let you know, in case it's one of your first time with the Zoom meeting room, that it is possible to see everyone who is talking at the same time. We have several views. We have the speaker view, and you can enter a full screen, or you could also see a gallery view. gallery view will let you see everyone who is in our meeting right now. And speaker view will show you everyone who is in the meeting and also show you mainly whoever is speaking at the time. If you scroll down to the bottom of your screen, you will see that we have a chat option, and when you click on that, you can then enter the chat box. If you have any questions, you can type them there, or you can feel free to ask our professionals as we go along through the webinar. Okay? All right, so I will kick off our questions. The first set of questions are going to be about your daily work life. We want to know, what does your daily schedule look like? What are some of the daily challenges that you may face? Whether you work primarily in an educational setting or business setting, and whether you work collaboratively with others, or if you spend most of your time working, you know, on your own individually.
Megan?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I think in terms of how I work for the University of Iowa. I work for the Division of Continuing Education. I'm one of three lead instructional designers that are in staff here at the division. My work schedule is generally from 8 to 5, and basically my deadlines go along with the beginning of each academic session. So usually this is April and the beginning of May are like my busiest time, and during those months, I tend to, especially towards the end of April, I tend to have probably 2 weeks where I have to stay late at work, maybe 2-3 nights, just to make sure that I have everything ready for core releases by their due date. We have 2 sets of courses. We have guided independent study courses, and those are ones that we release 2 weeks before the beginning of classes, so students have a little bit more time to work on them, to get acquainted with the materials. And we have the general distance education courses, which we release the materials exactly the first day of classes. So in general, my schedule is 8 to 5, but I do have times during the semester where I do have to stay a little bit later. In terms of my work day, I think for me the day starts with checking email, making sure that if I'm expecting, well, let me back a little bit. I think that my work as an instructional designer is a lot like that project. You are a lot like a project manager. You have to manage different courses all at the same time, and they are all at different stages of development. Some of them, in some projects, we're still talking what's going to happen in terms of the course structure, objectives, delivery format. In other courses, you have instructors who are more experienced, and you pretty much kind of jump from design to development in a short period of time. So for me, the day starts with checking email, see if there's any materials for me to review, so that instructor can move forward in what they're doing, that faculty member. And after that is pretty much production in the sense of reviewing materials for instructors, formatting documentation, writing or instructions for an online activity, or perfecting instructions for an online activity, I should say sometimes. And my work in general is, I think, more individual than collaborative. And I should say, there is always, in every aspect of it, there is a collaborative element to it. You collaborate with, in my case, I collaborate with faculty members to learn what their needs are, so we can create a plan for the development of a course for their particular course. So that aspect of it is collaborative. We're also, if I have, for example, instructors recording lectures or narrated PowerPoints, or we are coordinating live online lectures, that part, I work collaboratively with the instructor and with our media staff to kind of coordinate schedules and all of that. When it comes to actual production of materials that have to do with the materials that are going to be part of the course in terms of instructions, we have study guides, so I take care of formatting those study guides. That part is pretty much me. There's no much collaboration there. I take care of formatting, creating all the documentation, and then that's with content that I have been given from the faculty. And there is standard information that I have already developed, and my part of my work is to go through that documentation, make sure that there is good instruction for students, that there's no assumptions, or that we're providing the right scaffolding for whatever's next on the course. So that part, it's pretty much me. I mean, no, I don't get a lot of, and I'm not saying as I don't mean that it's a bad thing, but I work, I don't really have a lot of supervision. Like, my supervisor trusts that I know what I'm doing, and I pretty much work collaboratively with the faculty member that is responsible for the course.
Nelson, how about you?
Well, I noticed a lot of similarities in my role and in the work that I do with what was just described. I feel like a lot of many aspects of my position involve project management, and you know, in a variety of different contexts. I actually do work from home most of the time, and my schedule is also 8 to 5. For some of the collaborative elements, I do tend to go into the office for work. That could involve meeting with SMEs to determine our learning objectives for a variety of different training initiatives. It could also involve working with other IDs to kind of establish the process that we're using. We kind of have a formative ID process that we follow, and depending on the different business initiatives and projects that we're working on for a variety of different products, that kind of determines which route we take in terms of our ID process, content creation and development. So it definitely involves both individual work and collaborative elements. Yeah, the ID, we use a variety of different ID models too. It's kind of like taking the best parts of instructional design and kind of trying to incorporate those and find ways that we can use that to help facilitate training and help develop internally, help develop our employees, and then for external audiences, help them develop their skill and level for using our software. So it's definitely a challenge. It's a really hard question because I feel like it changes all the time, and you know, some mornings I go in and I don't know what to expect, but I know it's going to be a challenge, and I know you know, I know that I have a solid set of tools that I can use to kind of help me. So sorry, I keep getting background noise. Is anyone else hearing that?
Okay. So Nelson, you're kind of working in the business commercial end, and Isandra, you're working in the college and education side of it. Okay. So one question that comes from SEC. So Isandra, for you, you meet with professors to learn about the courses, and then you develop the course and return to them for final approval about what it is they need.
That's correct. When I first started working for the University of Iowa, I started working with it's interesting because it changes. It's so different depending on where you're at. When I first started working for the university, I worked for the College of Public Health. And it was interesting. I, like Nelson, started working from my apartment at that point. And I pretty much was, this is after working, you know, graduation, a month later, I get this temporary job. And I think I got paid like maybe $20 an hour or something like that. And I remember they pretty much say, well, we need you to build a training about, and this wasn't this particular group, it was an institute within the College of Public Health. And what they did is that they disseminated information related to public health, but more in the lines of awareness. This was a little bit of an institute that got put together after 9/11, and the purpose of it was kind of to create awareness of different aspects of public health, and kind of more in the lines of preparing public health professionals to respond to emergencies. So I got given a book about weapons of mass destruction, and they say, we need you to build a course about this, and that was it. And they gave me a book about weapons of mass destruction, and they say, we need you to build a course. You can do whatever you want, organize it any way you want. This is kind of a very basic information about the audience. A lot of it was me kind of looking online about who were the online responders, who was EMS, because I really didn't know anything about that. And to top it off, I have to write assessment questions for it, which of course I don't know. My background is in business. My undergrad was in HR, so I have zero knowledge about public health, about especially weapons of mass destruction. So in that sense, in that particular job, it was very, very sedentary. It was me, the book, the computer, and the web. And then feedback, basically, they found professionals in that area, and I sent to them the questions that I wrote. They pretty much, gave it, like a quick review. And that quick review, I'm not saying in a mediocre way. I'm just saying that they really didn't have much. It was a very factual, it was kind of it explodes because of this, or it doesn't explode, or you get sick or you don't get sick. So it was very, clean cut information. But when I was in my program, I would have never thought that the process was going to be so dry, in that particular experience. After I worked with them for 2 months, they offered me a position, and then after that, I built a number of other courses. But it was pretty much in that particular setting. It was pretty much in those lines. I was a professional. They didn't know. They know very little about instructional design. So I pretty much, honestly, designed my own to-do list. I mean, every day for me, I was in charge of what I needed to do, and they really did trust what I was doing, and so I pretty much, use my ADI model or elements of the ADI model kind of to organize my day and what I needed to do for each project. When I moved to my current job, one of the things that I enjoyed the most is that I didn't have to produce content, and that made me very happy, because I didn't have to. I did a lot of that in public health, and not knowing much about a topic. I mean, we all have our strengths, and I knew that particular part, but I didn't enjoy that much to have to, study about, I don't know, elements, public health, that I have to build trainings and questions about topics that I didn't know much about. So I was very happy not to do as much of that in my current job. And when I moved here to distance education, what I started doing was I started working with a guided independent study program, and as part of that program, I got here in a moment where they were transitioning those courses from paper-based to online. So in that sense, it has been a kind of a progression to the main goal was to get the courses online, and that's what they did before I got here. So we pretty much have just put the paper on Desire to Learn and get some quizzes there, and that's an online course. And now we have been moving forward with those courses to a point where now we have lectures that go along with, we're using more of the built-in tools on Desire to Learn to enhance the courses and to give students a better learning experience. That's a long answer. I'm sorry for your question.
So another question would be, so as far as professional development, either through your place of employment or on your own, is it kind of hard to keep up with technology trends, or do you kind of have to do most of that on your own? Nelson, we'll let this one go to you first.
Sure. I actually find it, in the work that I do, it's very easy to keep up with the technology. We use a variety of different technology internally for internal communication. For example, with webinars, we use WebEx, GoToMeeting, Google Hangouts, all kinds of different ways that we're communicating. And then the software that we create ourselves is very innovative. So the editing capabilities of our WDES software, whether it's for creating presentations, spreadsheets, word processing documents, you know, not only do I have to be knowledgeable about it and be able to use it, but I'm writing training content for it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think on that end of things, the program did a great job preparing me to use a variety of different types of technology, and then also creating instruction or training for using those different types of programs. I feel very well equipped to do what I'm doing. One thing I failed to mention as far as what is involved with my daily work is I do use an e-learning authoring program called Articulate Storyline. You may have heard of Adobe Captivate, which is another really popular one, but Articulate Storyline is kind of really taken off in the training and development industry as one of the leading e-learning authoring tools. So that's one that we use on a regular basis. Every single day I'm in that program, creating content for release on e-learning platforms. So that's another technology where I have taken some professional development through a company called UConn Learning. We did a week-long training session with them, and they kind of taught us how to use that program and get the most out of it. So there is some professional development that I guess I do. Otherwise, though, it's just my regular activities and my regular work kind of is a continuous learning process and keeps me on my toes. So.
My turn?
Sure.
Well, the question was about the technologies that we use, Nikki. Your question was about what the professional development, right? That we do. So for me, I think in Nelson's course, that's really an advantage when you work with the actual technology. For me, it's a little bit I know the technology. I know very well the technologies that I'm using. But for example, there are tools that are because of the format of some of our courses, it limits a little bit not what I can learn, how much I can implement it, how much of it I can put into practice. And that's again, those are part of those changes that when you have a built-in a program that is built in an old-fashioned way, it takes a while to get all the changes, to implement all the technologies that you want. So for me, I think the part that it gets hard sometimes is to find the time to find the time to do it on your own. I think for me it's easier when I go to a conference, because I have that time blocked to attend to a conference and listen and kind of like get engaged in the workshops. But to find time to train on my own is a little bit harder. I do it. We have a tool here at the university that is called or access to a website that is called lynda.com. It's fantastic. Really, really good tutorials. And that's the one that I've been using lately. Anytime that I have that and the web, and just the web in general, and whenever I'm working with, I use, for example, if I'm using Photoshop and I need to do something and I don't know how to do it, I learned Photoshop when I was in the program, and that's one of those tools that I don't think you hear much about it anymore. But it's been very helpful for me in terms to enhance courses, because sometimes the presentations that instructors provide to students are very dry and have a lack of visual elements to really enhance what they are explaining. So Photoshop is something that I've been using. We are using now more wikis to go along with, not to use it as a course portal, or more as a place where students can use it to submit for a different format for students to create projects or to work collaboratively. So those are kind of some tools that we've been using. We also use not as often, but VoiceThread as well in some online classes, and of course Connect would be the other program, that software that we use for our online courses. So yes, I think it is hard to keep up on your own, but it is extremely important.
Okay. That kind of leads us into another question we have here. What are some of the skills that, if you had to choose like your top 3 or 4 skills that you developed while here in the program, what would they be? Isandra, we'll start with you on this one.
Well, for me, the foundations will always be the foundations. I think if I look at most of the courses that I have worked on, many courses, as surprising as it can be, they really lack on good or even having objectives, and making sure that the objectives are linked to assessments. So I think that a lot of our faculty, they're very knowledgeable about what they do, but many of them even sometimes they don't even realize it, but they don't have a foundation in pedagogy. So I think that that's always a need for an instructional designer to be able to be good at the basics, at being able to create a goal, objectives, to get the foundation of the course to be strong enough that it can support the rest of the other elements that you're going to attach to it. So that's one something that I took from my program that I think as a professional and in a very humble way, I say it's one of my assets within, it's been something that it has helped me a lot to help or to assist the faculty that I work with. That is one aspect of it, being able to, even if you know a little, being able to know different technologies, it allows you to communicate better with the people you're trying to collaborate with. If you don't know about technologies, you're going to find people who are going to tell you that something very simple is very complex when it is not. And by knowing a little bit about the technology, that gives you that certainty that you know what you're asking for and you know what the final outcome should be. You are able to visualize it. And when you're able to do that, you're, I think, better prepared to get the outcomes that you want when you're designing a course. See, I'm trying to, in my head here, think about the classes that I took. So I think those would be two areas that I can think of. And just in general, something that I also got from the program is just to better yourself at what you do, you have to practice. You have to take every one of those projects that you do in a class and think about them. Set the expectation for you. Set a high expectation of your project. So to think about the project as if you were working, as if you were getting paid to complete that project. Like if you were being supervised closely by somebody that is going to tell you if what you're doing, you have to put your best in what you do, because that when you're in the program, you have the luxury that you do get constructive feedback. When you're a professional, many times you don't get that. I mean, I can tell you, I've been doing this 9 years, and I do receive feedback, but it's very much, people really, really trust what I do. And sometimes, like, you do need to have a second set of eyes. And not only what I do, but because they don't know much about instructional design, whatever you say, not 100%, but what you propose, a lot of it goes into what you're putting out there. So to make sure that you're, if you want to get the feedback and make sure that you are implementing best practices, I think you as a student, you should take advantage of, when you work on a project for your master's, really to take advantage of having the faculty close to you that can give you feedback and really help you, go beyond, do go beyond what you think is possible.
Okay. Okay. Nelson?
So a couple things I think that skills that I developed during the program that have been really useful for me. I talked a little bit about having grown familiar to using a variety of different technology, but I think just the innovative spirit or innovative way of thinking that I kind of developed through the program has really been helpful and useful. A good example would be there was a while where our LMS wasn't functioning correctly. So we still had assessments that we wanted people to take as part of their training curriculum. I was able to find a way to use Google Forms, Google Forms as a medium for an assessment. So the students would actually take a test using that, and it could track it, and it would log their username. And these are all things that I kind of messed around with or gained familiarity with while I was going through the program. So just having that solution or that alternative, knowledge that I could bring to the table and provide, I think really was appreciated, and it still allowed us to accomplish what we needed to. So that's one thing I think I really kind of honed through the program. Another thing that was valuable was the group work that we did and the opportunity to experience working as a leader or having experience working in a leadership role. I do feel that in our position as someone with a master's degree working as an instructional designer, I think you'll increasingly be expected to take on more of a project manager role, which we kind of talked about.
Definitely.
So I think just having that experience and that, leadership role really does kind of, it's really nice to have, and it's really important to have that. And you can't always find that, in just a job. You need to be in that environment where you're working together to create some sort of learning solution or some sort of educational curriculum, and to be in a role where you serve as a leader. I think that's been really valuable to me as well in this position.
Definitely.
Okay.
Yeah, that's probably good.
Nikki,
So
if you allow me, one more thing that I think it's good to mention about the program too, and I think your students still have that opportunity. When I was during my last semester at the university, I did an internship too, and actually here at the University of Iowa as well, mainly because I live here and I was traveling to UNI. But that was a really, really good opportunity. And in that particular instance, I didn't necessarily create a course. I worked with a institute from the College of Law to create case studies for training that they were working on. And just that experience, I mean, the feedback that I got from that instructional designer, who are still, I mean, I really have I didn't only got feedback from him, but we became peers, and I don't work with him anymore. But we are here in the same, in the same educational community, and the feedback that I got from him, I mean, it was very, very good in terms of learning how to make a case study more realistic to the students. So I mean, whatever project it is that you can get your hands on and get feedback from a professional or your faculty, I mean, go for it. You won't regret it.
Okay. So, is there anything that you would have liked to have been taught in the program that you think would benefit your professional career now? Nelson?
Well, I think I don't know if in my case it would be a little different, but I do know that a lot of instructional designers these days are doing more with e-learning content development, and especially in like business and industry, they're doing more with authoring tools and maybe some LMS administration. I was a graduate assistant, so I did have some experience working with Blackboard and in the LMS, which was definitely beneficial to me. But I think, I mean, having those experiences or opportunities would have been really nice. Could have maybe given me an advantage being a new instructional designer to have those skills. Definitely not necessary I think that I picked it up fine as things worked out, but it would be a nice option to have.
Mm-hmm. I think I agree with Nelson, and I will also add assessment. I think, at least when I was in the program, it's not that we didn't talk about assessment, but perhaps because of how, time issues or something, but there, in my head, I mean, there should be a class just about assessment, because it really is, when you work with faculty, at least from my perspective, and I would assume that for Nelson as well. I mean, maybe it's got different kind of assessment, but assessment not only in the way of choosing. I mean, if it's gonna be a test, a quiz, a project, but in how to build a question bank, what makes a good item, how you can assess that those items are actually assessing, what the goals of the course are. I mean, not only, sometimes it's not just about, okay, this question goes along with this objective. It's about making sure that item is effective, that it really speaks to what that objective is and what the students are actually performing. So I think for me, assessment definitely would be something that I think I would have learned more, and a little bit about statistics, maybe. I know that that's kind of hard to fit in a 2-year program, but maybe even as part of the same class, just a little bit of having a general understanding about what you do if you have an item, how to analyze results from, how to do an item analysis. I mean, something like that. I think those would be really good information for for an instructional designer, because we do get our hands in assessment, I think, much more than maybe people anticipate. I mean, I think sometimes it's not just about the technology. It's about making sure that the content that you're going to put in those boxes is accurate, and it actually speaks to what the content of the course is and what the goals and objectives are as well.
Okay. We actually have a distance learning class now where we create courses using BB9. So that kind of, I guess now we're kind of meeting that need that you said we might have had. Nelson, you had something else?
Yeah, I was just going to mention that I agreed with what she was saying with the assessment and the importance of that. I would go as further and say the importance of learning objectives and tying that all together. And so creating some sort of way to measure how much has been learned, or to demonstrate that a certain performance or level of proficiency has been achieved by people. I think that whole concept is really, really important to the industry. I mean, anything we create, if we don't have a reliable way to show that it's measurable and that they've achieved what we've set out to do initially, that the desired outcome's been achieved, then it's like, it's not worth nearly as much. So any sort of work that would help with that, and it's not just about using the technology, like you said, it's the fundamentals of having your STEM and your items, and having your correct and incorrect answers, making sure that your distractors aren't completely crazy, that they are logical. And then the feedback, one of the great things about the e-learning authoring tool that we use is you have the option to include feedback for each answer that's selected. So regardless of what they choose, they can still get feedback that's meaningful, that they could learn from, having selected a wrong answer. They could still learn from it. So assessment, definitely very important.
Sometimes you get, question. I find myself very, very often, and when we set online quizzes, for example, for a course, I have faculty sometimes that are still in the, I shouldn't say, they're not still in the mentality. They're just like very lenient, in terms of, we're going to do a quiz. It has 10 items. Let's give them an hour. What do they need an hour for? I mean, it's one quiz with 10 items. I mean, you're completely defeating the purpose of the actual quiz if you give them an hour, to complete a quiz. So those little tweakings, as simple or as small as they think, they really make a difference in what the benefit of that assessment, how that benefit really measures what you want your students to do. And it's not about the time. It's about when you're, in my experience at least, when you're working with an online environment, time sometimes gives you not the fact that they can answer in a minute per item, for example, but time in an online environment tells you that if they're able to complete 10 items in 10 minutes, that means that they did complete their readings. If they can do that successfully, because if they didn't do their part, if they didn't watch the lecture, if they didn't participate on the online discussion, they won't be able to answer any of that. So sometimes it's just the little details. I mean, that people, the faculty that are not used to the online environment, they're still thinking like if they were in a classroom. Like, yeah, we have a quiz, let's just give them, half hour. Well, they're answering one item. They really don't need a half hour. So it's just sometimes about the little things that where we, I think, make many meaningful contributions to help the people, our clients.
Yeah, and coming up with those different ways that you can actually measure those results too, I think are very important. Like you said, it could be time. It could be one way I found to be really effective is using like a pre-training assessment and then a post-training assessment.
Definitely.
So you can show this is what they knew initially. After the training, they actually, were able to achieve this score. So anything like that you can do is, I think, really, really valuable to your training program that you're creating.
Okay. What pressures, if any, do you experience regarding the value of what you design to meeting business goals, Nelson?
I think the hardest part is honestly the measurable results. And so for me, I've probably focused in two areas. One would be a multiple choice assessment. So final comprehensive, select the correct answer for either just terminology or, key concepts. The other thing that we've done is we've created actual simulations using the e-learning authoring program. So for performing various actions, those would be more related to performance objectives and, can they actually do this within the application itself? And those are a little more complicated to build. That definitely, I'm glad I had the UConn Learning training for that, because that probably would have taken me a year on my own otherwise. But I think if anything that you can prove, anything that you can offer that proves that you've achieved what you've set out to, that you've accomplished the desired learning outcome, and that the learner themselves have grown and they've developed the skill, or they've earned competencies related to the content that you're trying to convey. I think any of that is most valuable and definitely gets the attention from people who initially requested the training, and then other people who come to you then and ask, hey, how can you help our people get to this point?
I don't know if it's just my experience, but in higher education, at least it has been my experience, I don't necessarily feel a pressure for example, or not directly me, not for example, for completion rates or for a particular grade, or for having out, 500 courses at the end of the semester. I haven't experienced that, but I know that in some ways, I mean, our faculty, depending on the departments, are set completely different. They all have different expectations. They have different competencies that they need to achieve. I think more than the pressure is just a feeling of a high expectation on ourselves to make sure that to do little improvements as we see them, as things happen, or as we see patterns happening and how students use materials. We make little changes here and there in the programs to make sure that we are helping students successfully complete the course. Our courses are designed so that they mirror exactly the same objectives, or they're to have the same expectations that a non-campus course. So in that sense, I guess what I'm trying to say is that the pressure, I think, to me, in terms of learning outcomes to me is more in the faculty, because they're the ones that kind of grading the assignments, working with students. And if they're not good completion rates, I think that the issue is more about how the course is being managed. If there's anything on the instructional design aspect that we have to better, we just modify whatever needs to be modified during the semester, or just wait till the course is being taught once, so we can get the feedback from students and take the course and kind of like improve it in any way that is needed. But I don't see that as a pressure necessarily. It's more about the evolving nature of online learning. It's like you design something today and something doesn't work so well tomorrow, or there's a better way of engaging students, but you just go back and kind of fix it. But I don't feel, other than deadlines, that would be my main pressure. The deadlines that are where you're reviewing materials, and you know that somebody's waiting for you so they can move something forward. That to me is more of a pressure than the actual having pressure because I need to complete a certain number of courses, or because they are expecting to make this amount of money. I don't experience that in my work setting, but I can imagine that is the situation for many other people.
Okay. One more quick question that we have here. Do either of you feel that you have to create a lot of formal reports?
I don't really have to create like end of the year reports. We do have, for example, a wiki where we kind of keep track of, or where we kind of list all the projects we're working on and kind of where we are at with that particular project. But I think I don't submit that many reports, although if there is a situation with a particular course, or I do have to write kind of a nice, beefy note about the situations with the course, what we have done to successfully complete it, what were the challenges along the way, and so on. But that doesn't happen very often.
Yeah, for me, there isn't anything required as far as writing a comprehensive summary of our LMS analytics. I am kind of a nerd though, so I do like to take that information, and if I can present it in a way that makes myself look good, then I do like looking at that though. I do like seeing the how many people have taken the course. I like seeing like the pass percentage rate. If the course is taking longer, in some cases for some learners to complete, and then less time for others, it's all good information to have, and it's good feedback to kind of incorporate into your future efforts and future courses that you create. So nothing that's mandatory that I have to do, but definitely I do look at that information and try to make sense of it. So
I think a different some way of reporting that I don't think you don't realize as much when you're a student, is that when you are working collaboratively with faculty, you become a consultant. And as a consultant, you have to consult and provide feedback. And sometimes writing that feedback, or even rewriting, sometimes you have a faculty who has they have a draft for instructions on how to do an online activity. And when you sit down to rewrite that activity for them, to kind of like really give it all make sure that it takes students full circle, that can take you more time than writing a report, because you have to sit down and kind of put yourself in the shoes of the students and think about what the instructor has to do, what the students have to do, how you can have them collaborate, and what could be, a good way of explaining all of that. So I think that sometimes that takes more time than any reports.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah, it is. It's a good, I mean, it's a good way to kind of explain how a course is doing too. And as if you are in a position where you are working like a consultant, it's a good way to say rather than, yeah, everything's working great. If you can say, you know, hey, this is working great because when we started this, only 20% of the people knew this stuff. And now, according to these statistics, you know, 98% of the people in this department know these 10 things that we wanted them to know. Then I mean, it's proof and it's evidence, and so it's important, and it's not always required, but I think knowing how to do it and understanding how much value it brings is really important.
Definitely.
Excuse me. I know right before we started recording, Isandra was talking to me about you know, completing a paper and our portfolios and everything before graduation. So one quick thing I like to do is I want to put both of you on the timer, and you'll get like 2 minutes each, and you can kind of tell us really quickly maybe some tips and hints that you might have for us just as, you know, getting through the program and making sure that by the time we graduate, we're ready to go and ready to get into the field. So,
No, so you go first.
Hold on, what do you want?
So say that again, Nikki. So we have to give you tips on how to get through the program? Is that what you were saying? Can you repeat the question?
Basically, I'm going to give you 2 minutes each, and what we need you to do is give us any tips you might have for us, any really good advice that you know you gotten from going through the program, just ways that we can, as master students or as ed tech minors, you know, really get through the program so that when we graduate, we're ready to go into the field and, you know, ready to be successful.
Very good.
All right.
Okay.
So I'm going to press start, and Isandra, I'll let you go first. Ladies first.
Very good. So let's see, tips. Learn about all the technologies that you can, but remember that a good course is not about the technology. It's about engaging people. It's about it's about knowing what the final outcome of that learning experience should be, and to trying to walk your students through that process, letting them, you know, be active participants of that process, but making sure that they have the right structure basis for it. Don't assume that they know X or Y. If there is something that is important for your audience, make sure that is there for them, that is available for students early on, so that you know that they all have the same opportunities to be successful in their learning endeavors. As a professional, once you're in the field, writing, oral and written communication is extremely important. You're going to be writing a lot to your clients. You're going to speak to many people in the phone, over the web. Always be professional. Be respectful. Be very respectful of what they have already done. Remember, we're not here to judge what they have done. We're here to provide constructive feedback. We are facilitators. We are not judges. So I think in that sense, it's very important, especially when you're new at a job. Never show up the first day telling people how much you know about ID and how little they know and how poor of a job they have done in the past. That, in a very frank way, is none of your business. You start from that point forward and you help them better whatever it is that needs to be better. And enjoy it. Learn. Enjoy your your time as a student. Don't stress too much. If you're spending too much time stressing, that means that you need to talk to somebody. Share ideas with other students, with your faculty. See them as a resource, because that's what they're there for, and your peers as well. I mean, just don't be shy about sharing ideas. And once you're out there and you're a professional, strive for a balanced life. It doesn't have to be about all about work. Be organized. Keep your team, as much in shape as you can. In terms of, stay organized. Some weeks are gonna be a little bit like, what's going on in here. Some weeks are gonna be you know where every project is at. That happens. We're all human, but it cannot be all about work. Exercise, get out there, enjoy your family, and uh, always do, be the best you can at what you're doing, and strive to do a little bit better every day. That's kind of, I mean, it's not all about, it's about enjoying the process and about allowing yourself to learn as you move forward as a student and as a professional as well.
All right, Nelson?
I would say a couple things that you should know going into a new job as an instructional designer. A couple things that would be important is, first of all, on any project, it's important to know what the overall goal is. It's important to get that information out of the SME or the stakeholder who requests the training. Understand what the intentions are. What are you really trying to accomplish? And from there, you can start breaking it down into the individual objectives for the learners. But to get a clear understanding and understanding as far as what the overall goal is for the training, what are you trying to accomplish? Another thing is since the process involves so many different people and so many different roles, don't try to do it all yourself. Yes. You'll end up killing yourself. And a lot of times instructional design work can be, it's not really an interactive job. You might be doing a lot of the work by yourself, but the more you can collaborate with other people and get them involved and kind of put their aces in their places, use people the best way that you possibly can, the better the overall course is going to be and the overall content that you create. So taking advantage of collaboration. Finally, the stuff that you learn during the program, any of the learning theory, the different instructional design models, you learn way more than you actually think that you know. When I first started, I'm like, I really don't know what I know. But everyone is just overwhelmingly impressed with my amount of knowledge that I had. So just, try to keep that fresh and be confident and trust yourself that you know what instructional design is, you know how education works, and contribute that to the table at any time you're working on something. That'd be my advice.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much for that. Amy, did you have a question that you wanted to ask?
Yes, I actually have a few questions, but I'll ask one. I am an technology integrator for a K-12 school district currently. And my passion is to move into instructional design full-time in the business and corporate world. So I've been applying for a while now, and I noticed that job descriptions are mostly the same, but some of the feedback I've gotten back when they do reply, they don't indicate sometimes something specific they're looking for, for example, experience in audio and visual. So my question is, how do you rise above all of that noise in the application world, and there's so many jobs out there? Just how do you bring yourself to the surface? I have a e-portfolio, a link to that on my resume. What tips do you have?
Well, I think you have to also look at your cover letter. Make sure that you have a cover letter that is to use a business term, that markets you well. One page cover letter, and that is clear, concise, but it's also what's the word? My goodness, I'm running. It's assertive. That a letter that is assertive. If you don't present a letter that goes around the bushes. Just this is what I can bring to the table. This is what I have. These are my experiences, and of course, there is no one cover letter for every job. You have to look at the job description and make sure that whatever is in that description, you're mentioning that or some of those skills in your cover letter. Because that way they can see you. It's a better way for them to visualize you on your resume, to put your perspective in perspective with that particular job description. So that's one way. we recruited an instructional designer here maybe 3 or 4 years ago, and I was part of the hiring committee for that instructional designer. And I can tell you, when you look at the we have a pool probably of 18, 20 instructional designers. And at that particular point, I mean, some I don't know what set of skills you have in terms of job experiences, but make sure that you do emphasize how what you have done in the past informs this job position, because I think that's something that it was sometimes very poor in the job in the cover letters that we receive. I mean, some of them, it almost felt like they wrote it for something else. I mean, so for me, the cover letter and making sure that your resume again speaks to all the experiences that you have that are meaningful to that particular job.
Thank you.
Yeah, to add to that, I would say anything you can show them that's relevant to the position. So you might have an e-learning portfolio. I know I struggled with this initially. I had an e-learning portfolio that had examples of content that I created that would be useful for education, but not necessarily for industry. And I know that it's kind of rough, because then that means it's a lot of time that you have to spend recreating some of that stuff. But if that's what it takes, I would recommend trying to, I guess, have some of that available. There's ways that you word things I know that we look for. So, for example, I know you've worked a lot with designing curriculum for adults. So just the phrasing that you use, saying, have applied adult learning principles in the design and development of curriculum, however you'd want to word it, that's something that could, get you in the door. Lastly, the e-learning authoring tools is huge. And
It's my answer.
oh, it's okay. I know we always look for that. So any experience you have working with Articulate or Adobe Captivate, that's one thing that would definitely get you noticed and possibly an interview.
Yeah, the Articulate is a little pricey for me at this point, but I have been using the free side of Smart Builder, and I've also used the 30-day trial of Articulate. So.
Downloaded it like 10 times. Yep.
Yeah. Thanks. Thank you.
Yeah.
We've just about reached that time. One thing I'd like everyone to do, just so we can kind of get an idea of where everyone is watching the webinar from, if you could, into the chat box, could you type your name? Well, your name will show up, but your location, city, state, if there's a different country, if you could type that in for us, that'll be great. We would appreciate it. If we don't have any more questions from the floor, I would just like to thank Nelson Rokke so very much, and Isandra Martinez-Marreno so very much for agreeing to do this for us. It's helpful to know, if you begin with the end in mind, how you can prepare to get to where you want to go. So we just want to thank you so very much for doing this for us.
Thanks for having us, and best of not luck, because luck is for the casino. So I hope you have a very successful process completing your degree, and a very much more successful professional life.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Okay, just to put this out there for everyone, we have another webinar, the second in the series, this Tuesday. It'll be at 12 o'clock. Same time, the Zoom location will be sent out to everyone in an email from IT. So we hope to see you then. And at that time, we'll be talking to some technology integration specialists, Farrah Kashef and Kathy Hines.